Hey VC, it's Gary again. I'm back. Um, you want me to stop posting? Find me a job, folks. What can I tell you? I got so many ideas for videos. I'll probably run out at some point. But I guess I tend to think thematically. And I have my icon touchstone album thing that I'm doing. That Carm Gorvo 31 did a beautiful video just recently, I think yesterday, on the Bar Phillips album. That is indeed one of my icon albums as well. And he did a fantastic job with it. I think anybody that watches my videos knows Carm and watches his videos. If somehow you don't, if there's somebody in this group that actually likes my videos and hasn't seen Carm's, please go check him out. And the Journal Violin 2 album that he did by Bar Phillips basically took the words out of my mouth. Beautiful album. I'm still gonna do a Bar Phillips video, I think, because he was my introduction to ECM, and actually is responsible for me getting into this weird music I listen to. So I have my icon thing going on. I'm going to do a video. I have to find the vinyl first of the last 5 or 6 vinyl albums I bought. The reason I'm doing that is because I don't buy vinyl. I'm not a vinyl junkie. I'm a music junkie. I prefer CDs. But of the last 5 or 6 vinyls I bought, that goes back probably 5 or 6 years ago. Probably it's the only vinyl I've even bought for 12 years or so. These many years I didn't buy any vinyl. Then a few things came up that were out of print that never came out on CD, so I bought on vinyl. So I have to find all of those. I only have a couple of them. I'm going to dig those out. But today I'm going to do another one. This may be a series, but right now I just dug out whatever vinyl I could find that actually fits this bill. It's not all I have, but it's a good chunk of it, and I have to really look through what I have. Theme here is vinyl albums I have, but I want on CD. They came out on CD, but I missed them, meaning they're out of print now, and I missed the CD editions. So I'm going to start, and these are fantastic albums anyway, and you probably understand the reason why I want these on CD so bad. Sam Rivers, Dave Holland, duet, recorded February 18th, 1976, on Improvising Artists Incorporated. I know Carmen and I think some other folks have talked about Improvising Artists. It's Paul Bly, the pianist. It was a label that he ran out of New York in the mid-70s. He only did it for a few years, and he recorded some iconic albums on there. And they did get a brief CD release, I want to say maybe the early 90s. And I picked up a few of them there. A few things he did with Bill Connors specifically. But I missed some of them, and this is one of them. And you can imagine, this is a good album to hear on CD. Why? Because it's quiet. There's only the upright bass and the horns. So, tenor saxophone, soprano saxophone, Sam River plays. So you can imagine this needs to be heard on a quiet surface, like a CD thing. Beautiful album, about 40 minutes. I never actually saw the CD of this, but I'm assuming that it did come out along with the other Improvising Artists albums, because I think they all came out at the same time and kind of quickly went out of print, but I'm pretty sure they all came out. But you can imagine, if you like Sam Rivers, probably a low-key Sam Rivers, and Dave Holland, which is great artist. It's a great album to have. There's no percussion, there's no piano or anything like that. Fantastic album. Another one I missed, same label, Paul Bly, Japan Suite. This is a trio, piano, bass, and drums recording, live album. recorded also in 1976, in July of 76. It's a busy year for Paul, considering he's running this label and doing a lot of recordings. Gary Peacock on bass, Barry Altschul on drums and percussion, 38-minute album, came out in 77, and live album. I have to give this a spin because I haven't listened to this in years, and I know there's a lot of glare, and I'm see if you can get the picture. Gary Peacock, looking mean with a mustache. I remember liking it. I think it's one of the more avant-garde albums, perhaps. I think my feeling is that because there's only two side-long pieces, Japan Suite 1 and Japan Suite 2, I have a feeling this is an totally improvised performance. But again, missed it on CD. Would like to have it. Here's another one. This is a label not too many people, I wouldn't say are aware of. It was so short-lived. It was called, God damn, this is hard to read, Artist's House? I remember when this label was new, when it came out in the late 70s. This is like the Sam Rivers David Holland album. A little hard to get into. Ornette Coleman, called Soap Suds. This is Ornette Coleman and Charlie Haden on bass. So again, like the Sam Rivers album and Dave Holland. A duet album. Ornette plays tenor saxophone and trumpet. You don't hear him play a lot of trumpet. And just Charlie Haden on bass. So again, very quiet. Pretty album. This one is from, oh damn, I'm going to have to take the bag out here. I want to say 77. And there's, well, they wrote liner notes. In 78, Ornette wrote some liner notes in there. Charlie Haden wrote some liner notes in there. And came out in 78, so I'm guessing it was recorded in 77, and it's a little faded. Yeah, wow, I can't believe this got faded, considering it's never seen the sunlight. Recorded in January 77. Sorry, guys, I should have really closely read all of this. Pretty album, maybe not what you associate with Ornette Coleman, certainly not in the late 70s. As a matter of fact, one of the tunes he does is the theme to a TV show that was really popular at the time. It was a nighttime, soap opera comedy thing called Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. And it's one of those things that, like, kind of forgotten with time, was absolutely enormous at the time. It was one of the first things not on network TV. And it was on, what's now the Fox network, but it was on independent channels. And was a big hit half-hour weird-ass sitcom series. But it was it was a sitcom, but it was a soap opera, essentially, day-by-day thing. And they had a theme song, and oddly enough, Ornette picked up on it and recorded this theme song, just on saxophone and upright bass. And again, it's a quiet album. It's on this Artist's House label. I remember this being new, this label coming out. And I don't remember when they disappeared. But they didn't last long. And it's kind of a shame, and this is something I'm sure never came out on CD. And again, my turntable's kind of semi-hooked up, and I got so much crap sitting on there that, when I pull these records out, this is the kind of thing that makes me want to give them a spin. And the only reason I don't, or I've hesitated, is because I know I'm going to be very disappointed if the vinyl is shot. And it's going to ruin what I know is a beautiful listening experience, especially those albums, like the Ornette album, the duet albums, and the Sam Rivers albums. It's a quiet album. There's no percussion. There's no noise. There's no piano. Another album, I missed the CD release. I know it came out on CD. I actually bought a used CD of it. One of the 3 or 4 times I bought a used CD. Chick Corea, again and again. I am not a big fan of Chick Corea. He is a fantastic technician, but his playing is too busy. And again, this is a short-lived label that also came out in the late 70s, early 80s, called Elektra Musician. It was part of the Elektra label. But I believe it was Bruce Lundvall, who is a big executive at various record companies, Elektra being one of them. All his life was a big jazz fanatic, so whenever he went to a label, he kind of always brought along some jazz artists with him. And in this case, I guess he was working for Elektra, and he had them create this subdivision, sub-label, Elektra Musician. And again, it should have lasted, and it didn't. I think what happened is, I think Bruce Lundvall left Elektra, and when he left, there was just nobody there that could give a damn about jazz, and they closed down the label. This is an interesting band. It's a 5-piece band. A bunch of the album is improvised. This is from 1982. Doesn't have a recording date on there, but the liner notes were written in mid '82, and it was released in early '83. So I'm going to guess the recording is from '82. Nice band. Tom Brechtelein on drums. I'm not familiar with him, but the late great Don Elias on percussion. Fantastic percussionist. Charles Benevent on electric bass. Again, somebody I'm not familiar with, but somebody you guys may be familiar with. Steve Kujala on flutes, soprano sax, and tenor saxophone. I don't know what happened to him. He was a young guy that got into Chick's band and got quite a bunch of recognition and did a beautiful duet album, really around the same time on ECM with Chick, just Chick and Steve. And that's a really good album. I like that actually a lot better than this. And Chick is in the full electric mode, but it's not the electric band kind of stuff. You know, he's playing electric keyboards here mostly. You know, Mini Moogs, Hohner Duo, Yamaha, blah blah blah. Plays some percussion too. I like this album. And again, you know, '82 was before the CD era, so it came out on CD and came and went, was out of print, and I just had to bite the bullet and paid way too much to get a semi-beat up CD copy. But it's a good album. I mean, you know, as far as Chick goes, you know, I have so many of his albums, you would think I'm a fan, and yet I'm really not, you know. He does have these moments, you know. This is one of them, I think. There's a lot of improvising by the band. It's a good band. I like the lineup. You got drums, percussion, bass, and Steve Kujala, who's fantastic. And I don't know what happened to the guy. He seemed like he was headed for a solo career after being in a high-profile band with Chick, and didn't hear from him again. But Chick's got I should maybe do a video of Chick albums I actually like, you know, and that changes a little bit maybe over time. But I'm not a hardcore fan. Next up, I've got an album that I'm skipping around here. Stylistic wise, I'm all over the place. I don't know if this ever came out on CD, so this is the one I'm not sure of. Mainstream, I love this album cover, and it's, people say probably stupid that I love this album cover. It's a park bench sitting outside an old brick building, and you can see some very old wooden large windows. Building looks like it's really run down, and like a Chinese lantern thing inside. I don't know why I love this album cover so much. Maybe it's the ambiance, you know, that the blue tinge makes on there. It's Jimmy Rainey, the mainstream bebop guitarist, who passed away a number of years ago. It was my first album by him. I was, you know, buying bebop mainstream electric guitar at the time. It's a trio with, well, if you're into jazz, you should know these guys. Richard Davis on upright bass, Alan Dawson on drums. It's the mid-'70s. I always wondered kind of what happened to Alan Dawson, because I didn't hear about him for a lot of years after this. And then I read somewhere that he was a teacher somewhere, music school teacher, I believe. And so it's very simple, you know, guitar, bass, drums. It's a live recording. It was recorded in one day, I believe. Yeah, July 21, 1974. Mainstream bebop guitar, but just tasty, just really nice. And I see all these Jimmy Rainey albums, and they're old. They're from the early 50s, and you know, before this and after this, and yet this one doesn't come out. I think it's because of the label. It's on Pausa, P-A-U-S-A, that was based in Los Angeles, and I remember them being a fairly, you know, big jazz label at the time. This came out in '75. And again, it's just a label that, these labels disappear when you're not looking kind of thing. And this is one of them, and it could be that nobody bought the rights to their catalog because they're not around, I'm pretty sure. It's got a standard. It's got Autumn Leaves, Irving Berlin's The Best Thing for You Is Me, Hammerstein's, Kern and Hammerstein's, Nobody Else But Me, something called Just Friends by Lewis and Clemmer. I don't know. I don't think that's John Lewis. I'm not sure. It's also got two originals by Jimmy Rainey. Momentum, the title track, and something called We'll Be Together, which is a nice 10-plus minute stretch out, This is just, it's one of those clean albums, when you just want to hear it. It's done in the studio, fairly well recorded, just one electric guitar, no overdubs, upright bass and drums, and it's just when you're in the mood for that kind of thing, I don't know, maybe slightly in Jim Hall mode. It's just pretty, and it's nice, and he's a fine player, and I just wish I had this on CD. But PAUSA, they're gone now too. Here's another one. I didn't know anything about this guy, guitarist Juan Martin. Here's another one I missed on CD. This one I know came out. This is called Painter and Sound, and the reason that I bought this on the RCA digital label. Well, we know RCA is probably still around, right? Making records? Who the frig knows, Those are probably the guys that are putting out Britney Spears or something, and they're not going to put this out. It looked interesting because it seemed that Juan Martin was playing strictly acoustic guitars on this. He wrote all the music on it, but instead of it just being a solo album or a band album, the thing that made me buy it when I saw it in the record shop, or else I would have never picked it up, was the fact that it's essentially a duet album. It's got Juan Martin on acoustic guitars, and it's got Mark Isham, who I love, playing keyboards, soprano sax, and trumpet. So he plays synthesizers on this. So he creates a beautiful, beautiful bed for Juan Martin's acoustic guitars on synthesizers. And then over on top of that, he plays soprano sax and trumpet. And this did come out. This is from 1986. This did come out. 86 probably came out on CD at the same time. And unfortunately, I was buying CDs at the time, but I guess this might have been like the transition year for me, where I was hesitant to necessarily pick up CDs. Very soon when they became available, I started picking them up, but I probably had literally a few months when they became available that I was iffy on them. Maybe not so much spending the extra money, but I didn't know if they would last as a medium, which was probably stupid because I could have had this on CD. Nice album, nice cover. And a beautiful album, and somebody I didn't know anything about. I have something else by him that's along a similar vein that I believe Mark Isham played on, but he has other musicians on as well, and Isham wasn't as fully involved with that one. I think he just guests on a few tracks. But this is the one for me. If I was going to listen to this guy's album, one of his albums, this would be it. I don't know much about him. And the other two musicians I have left, again, I can put the theme of musicians I don't know crap about because this is kind of where it's going. Here's a guy, and I think he's from the Netherlands, I'm not sure. Thilo van Westerhagen, Pleasureland. I believe this is the only album, and I'm just hanging off the edge there, but I want to try to keep it on so I remember what I paid for it. This is on a Lifestyle record label. Again, from the early to mid 80s, Lifestyle. They've got address in it. It's part of the Moss Music Group, so it says New York, Los Angeles, Toronto. But I think the Lifestyle label itself was based in Canada. I remember doing some research on it's essentially a Canadian label, even though the musicians that recorded for them come from all over. I didn't know anything about this guy, and I had bought a couple other Lifestyle releases that I really liked. They had very good recording quality, like you can count on ECM records to have a really good recording quality. This was kind of like maybe more electric version, not rockish, but electric version, and I knew nothing about the album, I knew nothing about the musician, and this came out on CD, and I can't get it. So good old Philo von Westerhagen is a keyboard player, and this is a full band. He's got a bassist, drums, percussion. He's got somebody who plays marimba and vibes, which really nice colors the album. He's got electric guitarist and a soprano sax. So it's a big band. It's got all kinds of colors in there. And Philo plays a piano, celestia, and organ as well. So organ is the only electric keyboard there. But there is electric guitar in the band. And nice colors. Very, very, very accessible album. This is the kind of thing you could almost play for somebody who doesn't like jazz. I know nothing about him. I think this is the only album that ever saw release in the U.S. by him, and I know he's done some other things, but you can't even get them as imports. At least when I looked, you couldn't. And damn it, I missed it on CD, too. Short album on the Lifestyle label. If anybody knows anything about him, I'd be curious to know. But another label that's gone, and I missed the CD release. My last album. So I'm keeping it under a half hour, guys. Somebody else I knew nothing about, and again, this came out in '86. There's no recording date on it, but it was recorded. It was released in '86 and recorded, I'm sure, slightly before. I never even saw another release by this guy. Stephen Caudell, Wine Dark Sea. Great album cover. I remember buying this. I remember where I bought this. I remember the day that I bought this. One of those things I just saw in the record store. It's got two pieces, each about 20 minutes, 22 minutes or so, and the whole album's about 45 minutes. It's just the Wine Dark Sea Part 1 and the Wine Dark Sea Part 2. Pretty stuff, accessible. The thing that made me buy this, again, I have this love of solo musician albums where one musician plays all the instruments himself. And this is one of those. He's a guitarist. He plays some electric keyboards. And also, he doesn't credit himself with drums, but there's a drum machine on here. So I think he just programmed the drum machine. Gets a little up-tempo. I want to say borderlining rock a couple times when the drum machine comes in. But not too much. It starts off really pretty. It has, as I mentioned to Carmen, has a Saturday morning vibe to it. It just starts off with a couple of guitars, a couple of acoustic guitars, I believe nylon string guitars, and it just has a real nice sound. There's a lot of overdubbing and some light keyboards on top of the guitars, and then it gets a little more aggressive, then ends after about 20-something minutes, and the second side picks up, and also goes through a cycle. It's almost like a complete day cycle, where it starts off quietly and it ends quietly, kind of suggesting it's ending in the still of the night kind of thing. And in between, drum machine kicks in, it's a little more up-tempo. Came out on CD and I missed it. And it's the only album I ever saw by him. I don't know anything about where he's from. He also plays bass guitar in this as well. So he plays various electric, acoustic guitars, bass guitar, keyboards, and there's drum machine too. And that's from about '86. And that's it, guys. If any of you are familiar with those albums, I mean, I would expect possibly like the Chick Corea thing. Maybe the Improvising Artists albums, maybe because some people look for that label. It's a great label. I'd be curious to know. But if I find more albums like this where they came out on CD and I missed them and they're out of print now, I'll let you know. I have a whole crap load that, not just ECM, of things that are albums that I wish had come out on CD that never came out on CD, which is maybe another theme, something else. So I'll call it a day for now, guys. And I have a couple more ideas for some video. I want to do a Bar Phillips video because he was my whole introduction to getting into non-mainstream music. And maybe another idea too. Okay, guys? I hope you have a great weekend, and whenever you're viewing this, rest of your day, whatever. Have a great one. I want to thank everybody for watching and the kind comments. It's a great group of people, and I really appreciate you taking time to watch my ramblings. Have a good night, guys. Take care.